What if the past you think you understand was only half the story? Beneath oceans, deserts, and quiet hillsides, objects have been found that shouldn't exist. Machines too advanced for their age. Temples built before farming. Symbols carved before writing was supposed to begin. These are not myths. They are real discoveries, pulled from the earth, examined by scientists, and yet never fully explained. Each one quietly challenges the timeline we were taught, suggesting that human knowledge may have risen, vanished, and risen again, leaving only fragments behind. Tonight, we step into that uncomfortable space between what history explains and what it avoids. Not to force answers, but to listen. Because sometimes, the most unsettling truth isn't what we don't know. It's what the evidence is trying to tell us.
Night settles gently across the quiet edges of the world, softening its contours, dimming its noise, and allowing forgotten stories to drift upward like dust disturbed in an ancient chamber. In this stillness, when the day's urgency loosens its grip, the past begins to breathe again. Archaeology is often portrayed as a discipline of precision, brushed soil, measured lines, labeled fragments. But beneath that practiced calm lies a deeper river of uncertainty. Each artifact, each ruin, each engraved stone carries with it not only information, but silence. And in that silence, there's mystery, a kind that lingers, subtle and unsettling, reminding us that everything we think we know about our story is built on foundations we barely understand. To open the door into these mysteries is to step into a world where facts meet shadows and certainty dissolves into possibility. Tonight, we wander into that world slowly, carefully, the way one might explore an abandoned corridor with a lantern whose light flickers just enough to reveal what lies ahead, yet leaves the edges cloaked in darkness. In these liminal spaces, the line between what archaeology can explain and what it can only observe becomes strangely thin. The earth holds secrets older than memory, and sometimes, when we dig, we uncover not clarity, but questions that deepen rather than resolve. Think of the landscape of history as a vast night sky. Stars shine brightly where evidence is clear, forming constellations of knowledge we feel comfortable naming. Yet between them stretches an expanse of darkness, territory uncharted, unexplained, sometimes uncomfortable. Archaeological anomalies are like faint glimmers in that darkness, too distant to fully interpret, too persistent to ignore. They remind us that human civilization did not unfold in a straight line, nor in an uninterrupted march toward progress. Instead, it rose and fell in waves, leaving fragments scattered across continents and centuries, fragments that whisper of forgotten brilliance, vanished cultures, and ways of thinking lost to time. This documentary begins with a simple invitation to listen, to slow down, to breathe, and to allow the echoes of deep time to drift into awareness as naturally as a distant sound carried by the wind. The world we'll explore together isn't illuminated by harsh spotlights or dramatic proclamations. It's revealed softly, like moonlight glancing off weathered stone. The mysteries we meet are not here to frighten or overwhelm. Instead, they invite a gentle curiosity, a sense of wonder that feels both ancient and deeply human. For as long as we've existed, we've wondered who came before us. The earliest humans gazed into caves lit by torches, sensing presences they couldn't name. Early farmers plowed through soil that held pottery from vanished tribes. Modern scientists examine stone tools, skeletal remains, coded carvings, and monuments aligned with celestial bodies. But often, the more they uncover, the more complex the picture becomes. History, once thought to be straightforward, reveals itself as layered and looping, full of detours and disappearing paths. And sometimes, artifacts emerge that seem almost to break the rules. Objects too advanced for their era, structures too precise for known tools, symbols too widespread for isolated cultures. These are the mysteries that linger, the ones that refuse to fit neatly into textbooks. Scientists study them, debate them, propose explanations that almost resolve the uncertainties, But always, something remains slightly out of reach. A detail that resists interpretation, a measurement that shouldn't be possible, a pattern that suggests knowledge long before it should have existed. These are the unsettling puzzles scattered across human history. Not unsettling because they threaten us, but because they challenge what we assumed was solid ground. They invite us to step into a space where the known and the unknown coexist. The tone of our journey is calm, unhurried. You can listen with your eyes closed, let the imagery drift through your mind like distant memories, or allow the words to simply accompany your evening like a soft background tide. The goal is not to push for answers. Instead, it is to relish the experience of wondering, to feel the gentle thrill of stepping into the unknown without needing to conquer it. Archaeological mysteries are, after all, doorways. They open into possibilities, alternate histories, forgotten chapters, and glimpses of ingenuity that suggest earlier civilizations may have been far more sophisticated, interconnected, or spiritually driven than we imagined. As we move forward, picture yourself traveling across landscapes that hold traces of civilizations long faded. Sunken coasts, desert plateaus, subterranean chambers carved with intention, jungles overtaken by vines yet hiding perfect geometry beneath their roots. Imagine running your hands along stones that have outlived empires, touching carvings whose meaning no living person fully understands, standing beneath skies whose ancient observers charted stars with uncanny accuracy. These images form the tapestry of our exploration. Tonight's journey will take us from the impossible mechanics of the Antikythera device to temples thousands of years older than recorded agriculture. From lines etched into desert ground that seem designed for eyes far above, to chambers deep beneath the earth that amplify sound in eerie, deliberate ways. From underwater structures that defy simple explanations to scripts that appear before writing should have existed. Each mystery is a thread, and together, they form a quiet pattern, one that suggests humanity's past is far more intricate than the clean timelines we once believed. As we step into the first of these enigmas, allow yourself to drift gently between knowledge and imagination. Let curiosity unfold at its own pace. There is no rush, no pressure to reach a conclusion. This is a slow descent into the layers of time, where every discovery is softened by distance, and every unanswered question becomes a kind of companion. The past is calling, not with urgency, but with a soft, persistent whisper. And so, with a calm breath and an open mind, we begin. In 1901, beneath the gentle sway of the Aegean Sea, a group of sponge divers discovered something that would quietly reshape the boundaries of ancient knowledge. Among statues, amphorae, and shipwrecked timbers lay a corroded lump of bronze and wood. Unremarkable at first glance, fragile from centuries of saltwater sleep. No one aboard that salvaged ship could have imagined that this decaying fragment would become one of the most baffling archaeological discoveries of all time. It would take decades before the true nature of the object revealed itself. And even now, over a century later, the Antikythera mechanism remains a riddle that unsettles scientists, historians, and engineers alike. At first, it was simply cataloged as debris, another artifact pulled from the sea's quiet grip. But as conservators began to gently peel away the encrusted layers, gears appeared, intricate, interlocking, unervingly precise. Bronze teeth arranged in mathematical harmony, fragments of inscriptions that hinted at celestial movements, and components so delicately engineered that they seemed to contradict the technological timeline of the ancient world. The mechanism did not fit the story we had written for the past. It seemed to belong to a world centuries ahead of its time, a world where craftsmanship and scientific calculation walked hand in hand in ways we never expected. The more experts examined it, the stranger it became. The Greeks had been philosophers, mathematicians, poets, and inventors, yes, but devices like this? Gears with tolerances that rival Renaissance clockwork? A system capable of predicting eclipses, tracking planetary cycles, modeling lunar phases with astonishing accuracy? This was something else entirely. something that felt almost impossible. Radiographic imaging later revealed that the device once had over 30 bronze gears, each carefully cut and arranged to simulate complex astronomical functions. It was, in essence, an ancient analog computer, built not with electricity, but with intuition, calculation, and a remarkable understanding of both mathematics and the heavens. Its craftsmanship suggested a lineage of technological development far beyond what historical records indicated. Nothing else, even remotely comparable, appears in the archaeological record for more than 1,000 years. Imagine the hands that crafted it, the precision required to make its microscopic gear teeth, the planning, the knowledge of orbital mechanics encoded into metal centuries before the concept of planetary orbits became common knowledge. The mechanism suggests not only advanced engineering, but an entire tradition of scientific craftsmanship that may have vanished without a trace. If we follow history by what survives, then this mechanism whispers of a forgotten chapter, a lost workshop, an unnamed engineer or school of thinkers whose work dissolved into time. Yet for all it reveals, it conceals even more. We don't know who built it. We don't know how widespread such technology was. We don't know what other inventions may have existed alongside it or before it. The mechanism doesn't just challenge our assumptions. It undermines them quietly, steadily, with each gear that refuses to fit into the historical narrative. Descriptions on the fragments mention astronomical terms, cycles, and references to events important to Greek calendars. But the inscriptions are only partially preserved, like a sentence spoken by someone walking away into the dark. Scholars lean in, listening, straining to catch the rest, but the silence remains. The device stands at the intersection of knowledge and mystery, just enough light to fascinate, but enough shadow to unsettle. There's a poetic beauty in imagining the mechanism in its prime. Perhaps it sat in a wooden case, polished, admired by scholars or navigators who understood its purpose deeply. Maybe it was a teaching tool, or a ceremonial object, or a navigational aid for voyages across the Mediterranean. Or maybe it was a personal treasure built for someone with the means to commission a marvel. Whatever its function, it clearly mattered enough to be carried aboard a ship that later sank, condemning the object to centuries of silent slumber. And yet, despite all we've learned, the mechanism refuses to be fully understood. Modern reconstructions get close, but even the closest replicas rely on educated guesses to fill the missing pieces. Scholars debate not only its complexity, but its implications. Did the ancient world harbor pockets of advanced mechanical knowledge now lost? Were there predecessors to this device, or successors, that simply never survived the erosion of time? The sea revealed one mechanism. But was it unique? Or merely the last survivor of a lineage wiped clean by history's tides? Every new scan, every new fragment that surfaces adds nuance without closure. Some gears remain unidentified. Some inscriptions are too worn to read. Some functions are hypothesized but not proven. The mechanism, like many ancient mysteries, sits at the border between what we can know and what we can only imagine. The unsettling part is not that we cannot explain it. It is that its existence implies an entire network of knowledge, teachers, workshops, traditions that has vanished almost completely. Civilizations rise and fall, leaving monuments behind, but sophisticated technology leaves fewer traces. Sometimes it erodes quietly until a single object remains, a lone messenger from a forgotten world. The Antikythera mechanism is that messenger, a voice carried across centuries not to answer questions, but to ask them. It invites us to widen our view of the past, to acknowledge that our understanding of human innovation is incomplete. It urges us to consider the possibility that brilliance may emerge, flourish, and disappear without leaving the kind of trace history knows how to preserve. And so, as we drift deeper into the mysteries of archaeology, the mechanism serves as a perfect beginning, a reminder that even in cultures we think we understand, the unknown persists like a shadow in the corner of the room. Its gears turn in our imagination, and with each imagined rotation, They open the door to other ancient enigmas waiting just beyond the threshold of certainty. With this whisper of mechanical genius still lingering, we step gently toward the next puzzle, one not built of bronze, but of stone. A temple older than agriculture, a site older than cities, a monument that should not exist according to everything we once believed. From the impossible precision of gears, we now move toward the impossible grandeur of massive stone pillars rising from a hill forgotten by time. The mystery of Göbekli Tepe. High on the rolling plains of southeastern Turkey, where the winds sweep over the gentle hills and the sun sets in broad strokes of orange and violet, lie stones that should not exist. Göbekli Tepe, discovered in the 1990s but quietly studied for decades before its importance was fully grasped, is a place that unsettles archaeologists not with its decay, but with its sheer audacity. These massive T-shaped pillars, carved with animals and abstract symbols, rise from the soil as if memory itself had carved them. The scale of the site and the sophistication of its carvings seem impossibly advanced for a time when humanity was thought to be primarily hunter-gatherer. It is a gentle, yet profound, contradiction to everything we believe about the rise of civilization. Unlike later monumental structures, Göbekli Tepe predates farming, villages, and even pottery in this region. To imagine a society capable of organizing hundreds of people to carve and erect these stones, align them into circles, and decorate them with symbolic precision challenges the neat timelines of history. Who were the people who built it? Why would they undertake such enormous effort without the social or technological frameworks we associate with complex construction? The stones themselves are silent, and yet their presence is eloquent. They speak in scale, in geometry, and in the faint echoes of ritual that linger in the air even after millennia. Walking through the site in imagination, the contrast between expectation and reality becomes apparent. A hunter-gatherer society, which historians once pictured as transient, focused purely on survival, somehow possessed the vision, coordination, and spiritual drive to erect a sanctuary of such complexity. It raises questions about the origins of social structures, religion, and human ambition itself. Did the builders of Göbekli Tepe perceive the cosmos differently? Did their understanding of the seasons, the stars, and the cycles of nature inspire these monuments? Or were these pillars simply the language of an inner world, a manifestation of collective imagination pressed into stone? The carvings themselves contribute to the mystery. Lions, snakes, boars, vultures, they are not merely decorative. Each figure seems chosen with care, appearing in patterns that remain difficult to interpret fully. Some scholars suggest astronomical connections, linking certain pillars to the positions of stars or constellations. Others emphasize ritual and symbolic meaning, proposing that Göbekli Tepe was a gathering place for ceremonies, perhaps connected to the cycles of life and death. Yet nothing is certain. The carvings are eloquent and precise, yet their language has been lost. We can only observe, imagine, and wonder. What makes Göbekli Tepe even more unsettling is its deliberate burial. The builders did not abandon the site. They intentionally covered it with soil, hiding the monument from view for thousands of years. Why would a culture go to such effort, only to conceal the results? Was it a ritual act, a purification, or a symbolic gesture meant to reset a sacred space? Or did later generations bury it to preserve a memory whose meaning they no longer fully understood? The act of deliberate burial transforms the site from an archaeological puzzle into a quiet, haunting enigma, where intention and mystery entwine like the shadows of evening over the stones. Exploring Göbekli Tepe through this lens is like walking in a dream where scale and time shift beneath your feet. The stones themselves weigh many tons, some carved from distant limestone quarries. Moved with ingenuity, we still struggle to explain. Without metal tools, wheels, or draft animals, the precision and organization required to raise these pillars remain almost inconceivable. Each monolith seems to assert the presence of human intelligence reaching beyond survival into realms of abstraction, ritual, and cosmic understanding. It whispers across millennia, telling us that sophistication is not a product solely of urban life or farming. It existed first in imagination, in cooperation, in the daring effort to manifest belief in stone. And yet, the more we learn, the more questions accumulate. How did these early humans coordinate such work without written language? How did they convey architectural plans or ritual significance across generations? How was labor organized without the hierarchical structures that later societies relied upon? Every explanation brushes against assumptions and falls short. Göbekli Tepe defies simple interpretation because it is not only a monument, but a mirror, reflecting the limits of our understanding and the depth of human capability before history has deemed it possible. The site also invites quiet reflection on time itself. Standing amidst these stones in imagination, one senses not a singular era, but layers of human intention echoing across millennia. These circles and pillars predate the rise of cities, empires, and monumental architecture. Yet they share the same urge that drives every civilization: to mark existence, to leave something lasting, to reach for the infinite through stone and symbol. The builders of Göbekli Tepe remind us that even in what we consider the primitive past, humanity sought connection with something larger than itself, a consciousness, a cosmos, a mystery, or perhaps all three. Göbekli Tepe's enigmatic power is amplified by what remains unknown. Unlike later archaeological sites, there are no nearby settlements that explain the labor force, no written records that illuminate its purpose, no artifacts that suggest everyday life. We have only the stones and their silent carvings, and a tantalizing hint that human culture may have begun not in survival alone, but in ritual, symbolism, and cooperation beyond what we thought possible. Each circle, each pillar, each carving is a question carved in permanence, inviting contemplation as it quietly resists definitive answers. From the cold logic of mechanical gears in the Antikythera mechanism, we move now into the organic mystery of stone and spirit. Where the mechanism demonstrates human precision in calculation, Göbekli Tepe demonstrates human precision in vision, coordination, and meaning. One whispers of lost technical knowledge, the other of lost societal imagination. Both unsettle the mind, both expand the possible range of human capability, and both remind us that the past is far more intricate than the fragments we often rely upon to tell its story. As the sun dips below the horizon in this imagined landscape, shadows stretch across the carved pillars, accentuating both their beauty and their enigma. The tension between known and unknown lingers like the quiet wind that moves through empty circles, through empty centuries, leaving only questions in its passage. And so, with the mysteries of Göbekli Tepe as our companion, we move forward, leaving the hills and stepping into deserts where human hands have drawn visions across the earth itself. Visions meant to be seen from the sky, yet still captivating us in their silent, unbroken mystery. Stretching across the arid plains of southern Peru, the Nazca lines are a silent, sprawling canvas etched into the desert floor. From the ground, they appear as faint scratches in the soil, but from above, they reveal a world of geometric precision and hauntingly intricate figures: spiders, hummingbirds, monkeys, and lines so vast they defy comprehension. The scale alone challenges the imagination. Some lines extend for several kilometers, their straightness and alignment seemingly impervious to the limitations of human measurement. These images, hidden from everyday view, speak to a deliberate intention, an understanding of perspective and scale that seems almost otherworldly. They are at once beautiful and unsettling, offering glimpses into a civilization that left no written explanation, no clear narrative, only enigmatic traces. The mystery of the Nazca lines lies not just in their size, but in their purpose. Scholars have proposed countless theories over the decades. Were they ceremonial pathways intended for ritual processions? Astronomical calendars aligning with solstices or planetary positions? Maps or markers for underground water sources in a desert landscape where survival depended on knowledge of hidden springs? Each theory seems plausible, yet none can fully account for the complexity, variety, and sheer audacity of the designs. Some of the lines intersect in precise angles. Others form concentric circles or geometric shapes so large they can only be truly appreciated from high above, raising questions about how a pre-modern society achieved such perspective without flight or aerial observation. Walking through the imagined terrain of Nazca, one can almost feel the careful hands that scraped away the reddish topsoil to reveal the lighter subsoil beneath. Every line seems intentional, every curve deliberate, each figure a whisper of a cultural language lost to time. These markings are not random. They carry meaning encoded in scale, orientation, and placement. But what is that meaning? We are left to trace the lines with our imagination, to consider the rituals, beliefs, or practical necessities that might have driven their creation. In their silence, they feel like messages intended for unseen eyes, perhaps for the gods above, perhaps for generations yet unborn, perhaps for no one at all but the creators themselves. The desert itself amplifies the sense of mystery. Its dryness has preserved the lines for centuries, yet its harshness makes them nearly invisible at ground level, almost as if nature itself intended for them to remain hidden. Wind and rain have been minimal, allowing the designs to endure far longer than might be expected, while the surrounding barren expanse intensifies the feeling of isolation. There's a calm eeriness here, a quiet that encourages reflection on the human desire to leave a mark, to communicate across time and space. In this solitude, the viewer begins to grasp the patience, dedication, and communal effort required to produce something so monumental, something that speaks more to vision than to utility. Some figures are extraordinarily intricate. A hummingbird stretches its wings in perfect proportion. A monkey curls its tail with elegant symmetry. A condor spreads across the desert with wings so expansive that their full scale can only be understood from a high vantage point. The designs demonstrate not only artistic sensibility, but a sophisticated understanding of geometry and coordination. Imagine the careful planning, the trial and error, the subtle adjustments necessary to translate ideas into the desert floor with such accuracy. It is a quiet testimony to human creativity and cognition, yet it remains cloaked in enigma because the cultural context that gave rise to it is largely lost. Even more unsettling is the question of purpose. These lines are not fortifications, not dwellings, not functional tools in the conventional sense. They are a language of stone and soil, a visual poetry whose meaning has been obscured by time. And yet, despite the absence of a definitive explanation, their very existence compels wonder. Perhaps the creators intended them as prayers or offerings to the heavens. Perhaps they were navigational aids for ritual or ceremonial purposes. Or perhaps they were created simply to marvel at the act of creation itself, a testament to the human impulse to leave an enduring, visible mark on the world. Each line, each figure, carries this uncertainty, balancing the known, how they were constructed, with the unknown, their deeper significance. The Nazca lines also invite reflection on perspective, both literal and metaphorical. From the desert floor, the images are nearly impossible to perceive in their entirety. Only from above does their coherence emerge, their intended message fully revealed. In this, they challenge us to consider scale, context, and vantage point in understanding the past. What is hidden from one perspective may be obvious from another, and what seems ordinary in isolation becomes extraordinary in relation to the whole. This interplay between visibility and concealment mirrors the broader pattern of archaeological mysteries, where fragments offer glimpses but rarely complete understanding. Their endurance also speaks to the passage of time. Though created centuries ago, They remain remarkably intact, preserved by the climate and the deliberate simplicity of their construction. In this, they contrast sharply with fleeting human endeavors, reminding us that some expressions of intention, no matter how enigmatic, can outlast empires, languages, and even the memory of the people who made them. The lines exist in quiet defiance of decay, a subtle challenge to the assumptions of historians and archaeologists alike. They ask us to consider the creativity, dedication, and vision of societies that have vanished almost entirely from the written record. From the precise carvings of the Antikythera mechanism to the monumental stone circles of Göbekli Tepe, we now encounter an expression of human ingenuity written across a vast, empty desert, where the former two mysteries focused on mechanics and social organization. The Nazca lines reveal a different aspect, an aerial artistry, an intentional creation meant to be appreciated from a perspective no contemporary observer could attain. The lines continue the pattern of impossible knowledge, invisible intent, and lost context, reminding us that humanity's past is not linear, and our understanding of it remains partial and tentative. As we prepare to leave the desert of Nazca behind, the mind begins to drift naturally toward subterranean mysteries, where human ingenuity manifests not in open landscapes, but hidden chambers and carved stone, echoing silently beneath the earth. The transition from sky to underground, from vast openness to enclosed space, offers a gentle shift in perspective, moving from the unknown above to the unknown below, from the visible pattern to the hidden design, preparing us to encounter the hypogeum of Hal Saflieni and the secrets of its resonant, shadowed corridors. Beneath the sun-baked plains of Malta, hidden quietly beneath layers of soil and rock, lies a world that most people walk above without a second thought. The hypogeum of Hal Saflieni is not a temple built to reach the heavens, nor a monument visible from afar. It is a place that turns inward, a subterranean labyrinth carved meticulously from the living rock, where shadows linger long after the light has been extinguished. Discovered in the early 20th century, the hypogeum remains one of the most astonishing prehistoric constructions, a place whose purpose, construction, and acoustics continue to unsettle archaeologists, historians, and visitors alike. Its silent chambers, spiraling corridors, and intricately carved rooms carry with them an atmosphere both intimate and otherworldly, as though the very stone remembers the hands that shaped it and the voices that once echoed within its walls. Unlike surface monuments, the hypogeum is cloistered and secretive. Its design is deliberate, with multiple levels descending 3 stories into the earth, connected by winding staircases and low tunnels. Each chamber is carved with extraordinary care, its walls smoothed and its ceilings often concave to create a subtle amplification of sound. The builders, prehistoric people living over 5,000 years ago, left no written records, yet the sophistication of their construction suggests careful planning, an understanding of acoustics, and perhaps a deep spiritual or ceremonial intent. Even today, stepping inside, one is enveloped in a hush, as if the very stones absorb the presence of modern observers and hold the memory of countless centuries. The hypogeum is particularly remarkable for its acoustic properties. Certain chambers, especially one called the Oracle Room, amplify even the softest whisper, allowing sound to travel with clarity and resonance throughout the space. Researchers have tested frequencies and discovered that human voices, low chants, and musical tones resonate with extraordinary precision, sometimes causing vibrations that seem almost ethereal. The effect is hypnotic, both scientifically intriguing and emotionally stirring. It suggests that the builders were not only skilled engineers, but also keenly attuned to the sensory and spiritual experience of those who would enter these chambers. Here, the act of architecture becomes performance, and the past seems to communicate through sound rather than through sight or written word. Equally puzzling are the human remains found within the hypogeum. Over 700 skeletons, some of them belonging to children, were carefully interred in specific chambers, suggesting a complex ritualistic practice. The arrangement of these remains does not conform neatly to later burial traditions. Some are stacked, some positioned with heads and limbs in precise alignment, and others are placed in niches carved specifically for them. Scientists have found traces of red ochre on bones, further indicating ceremonial treatment. Yet the deeper significance of these practices remains elusive. Did these subterranean chambers serve primarily as a necropolis, a sacred temple, or a convergence of both functions? Each answer generates further questions, deepening the sense of mystery rather than resolving it. The carvings themselves add to the enigma. Simple motifs, spirals, and abstract forms appear alongside the chambers, hinting at symbolic or religious meaning that is now lost. Their presence emphasizes intent, communication, and a human desire to leave a lasting imprint. But unlike surface art or monumental architecture, the carvings are not meant to be seen by many. They are private, intimate expressions, hidden from the casual observer and only revealed to those who descend into the depths. The hypogeum becomes a metaphor for human experience itself. Layers of meaning buried beneath the surface, accessible only through careful exploration, patience, and respect for the unknown. Construction techniques also defy easy explanation. Without metal tools or modern machinery, prehistoric Maltese builders carved deep into limestone, creating spaces large enough for communal gatherings, yet precise enough to achieve architectural stability. The coordination required to dig 3 levels into the earth, maintain ventilation, prevent collapse, and integrate acoustical enhancement implies an organizational sophistication that modern observers can only begin to imagine. It suggests knowledge passed through generations, perhaps orally, perhaps experientially, forming a tradition of craftsmanship that now exists only in the echoing corridors of the hypogeum itself. The contrast between light and dark within the chambers enhances the hypnotic, contemplative atmosphere. Sunlight rarely penetrates beyond the entrance, leaving most rooms in soft twilight or shadow, lit only by small oil lamps during use. The interplay of shadows across carved walls, niches, and pillars evokes a sense of depth and movement, subtly reinforcing the sacred or ceremonial nature of the space. Visitors often report a feeling of temporal dislocation, a quiet awareness that they're standing in a place where time itself has been bent, layered, and preserved in stone and sound. This timelessness connects the hypogeum to other prehistoric mysteries, where human ambition and ingenuity stretch far beyond conventional expectations. Perhaps most unsettling is the realization that the hypogeum is fundamentally hidden. It exists not to impress the casual eye, nor to dominate the landscape. Its entire design embraces secrecy, intimacy, and enclosure, in sharp contrast to monuments like Göbekli Tepe or the Nazca Lines, which assert themselves openly. The hypogeum invites contemplation, reflection, and quiet wonder. It asks its visitors to listen carefully, not only to its echoes, but also to the whispers of those who came before, to the traces of belief, ritual, and understanding that linger long after the people themselves have vanished. The hypogeum of Hal Saflieni, with its subterranean chambers, haunting acoustics, and carefully arranged human remains, serves as a profound example of humanity's desire to leave a mark beyond life, beyond visibility, beyond conventional comprehension. It challenges assumptions about prehistoric societies, reminding us that even those who lived long before written language could conceive of intricate design, ritual sophistication, and sensory experience at a level we might not expect. In the still, quiet air of the underground, the line between known and unknown seems to blur, drawing visitors into a liminal space where history feels alive, present, and ever elusive. From the desert artistry of the Nazca Lines, where humans reached upward toward the sky, we now descend into stone and silence, exploring the deliberate shadows of the hypogeum. The journey continues from the earth below to the depths of the ocean, where human ambition and mystery take another form, hidden beneath waves and time. As the hypogeum teaches us to listen, so the sunken structures ahead will teach us to look and to question in ways that defy easy explanation. Far beneath the turquoise waters off the coast of Yonaguni, a small island in Japan, lies a formation that has confounded archaeologists, geologists, and casual divers alike. At first glance, it appears to be a natural underwater rock formation, sculpted over millennia by ocean currents and tectonic activity. But as divers began to explore more closely, a different picture emerged. Sharp edges, flat terraces, angular steps, and formations that seem almost architectural in nature. The Yonaguni Monument, lying silently beneath the waves, is a place where the line between geological phenomena and human handiwork becomes blurred, leaving observers suspended between awe and uncertainty. The monument was brought to global attention in the 1980s by marine researcher Masaaki Kimura, who argued that certain features, right angles, stair-like terraces, and precise cuts, could not be explained by natural forces alone. The stone formations, carved from sandstone and mudstone, stretch over hundreds of meters, forming terraces, plateaus, and platforms that suggest deliberate design. Some structures appear to be connected by roads or pathways, and one formation resembles a massive stepped pyramid, leading some to speculate that an ancient, advanced civilization may have existed in this region before being submerged by rising sea levels. Yet the evidence remains subtle, tantalizing, and controversial, hovering on the edge between science and speculation. The ocean adds an eerie layer to the mystery. Currents constantly shift, sediments slowly settle, and marine life colonizes the stone terraces, creating a living camouflage. Over thousands of years, erosion has softened edges, making it difficult to determine which features are natural and which are man-made. The monument appears as a quiet enigma, revealed only to those willing to descend into its depths, where light dwindles and perspective becomes distorted. From above the surface, there is nothing to suggest the presence of structure. Yet underwater, the formation unfolds like a hidden city frozen in time. One of the most striking aspects is the sense of scale and intentionality. Certain terraces align in parallel. Angles appear too precise to occur randomly, and some stones are stacked in ways reminiscent of megalithic architecture found across the world. Researchers point to potential tools, marks, carved channels, and geometric patterns that hint at a civilization capable of sophisticated construction techniques. If these are indeed man-made, the implications are profound. They suggest the existence of a society with architectural knowledge and social organization long before written history records settlements in this area. The past, in this case, seems submerged literally and metaphorically, leaving us only fragments to interpret. Yet the natural explanation cannot be ignored. Geological processes in the region are powerful and complex. Tectonic activity, earthquakes, and natural fracturing of sandstone could plausibly produce terraces, straight edges, and stepped formations. Ocean currents erode, crack, and smooth stones in ways that occasionally mimic intentional design. The debate between natural and artificial origins remains unresolved, with each side presenting compelling evidence. The beauty of Yonaguni lies not only in its ambiguity, but in its ability to sustain a dual narrative. It is both a masterpiece of nature and a possible relic of an ancient human endeavor, each interpretation evoking a different kind of awe. Exploring Yonaguni demands a shift in perspective. Unlike monuments on land, which can be walked and examined under natural light, this site requires submersion, patience, and adaptation to an alien environment. The water muffles sound, distorts depth perception, and adds an element of uncertainty to every observation. Divers become witnesses to a world half-hidden, moving slowly across terraces that may have been steps, feeling the cool current brush against stones whose purpose is still debated. This underwater liminality amplifies the monument's mystique. What is perceived is only part of what exists, and what exists remains partly inaccessible, much like the lost knowledge it might represent. The formation also challenges our understanding of human history on a global scale. If the steps, terraces, and channels are indeed man-made, they suggest that humans were capable of advanced construction long before conventional timelines allow. Coastal regions, submerged by rising seas at the end of the last ice age, could have harbored settlements now lost beneath oceans worldwide. Yonaguni, in this sense, becomes a symbol not only of mystery, but of the fragility of human memory, where entire chapters of prehistory could vanish without leaving conventional traces. The monument embodies the tension between visibility and loss, preservation and decay, human intention and natural chance. There is also a poetic element to its existence. Sunlight filters through the waves, casting rippling patterns across terraces and platforms, giving the stone formations a luminous, almost ethereal quality. Fish glide gracefully among steps and plateaus, oblivious to the debates above. The interplay of light, water, and stone creates a hypnotic rhythm, a silent narrative that feels older than recorded history. In this quiet world, time seems to move differently. Human hands may have shaped these stones, or they may be the work of forces millions of years in the making. But either way, the monument evokes reflection, reverence, and gentle disquiet. The Yonaguni Monument, whether natural or man-made, continues to challenge our assumptions. It exemplifies the persistent tension between fact and mystery, the known and the unknown, that runs through many of humanity's greatest enigmas. Its presence beneath the ocean reminds us that the Earth holds secrets not only in deserts and mountains, but also in the depths of water, where memory is submerged and perception is tested. The monument compels patience, careful observation, and humility, emphasizing that some questions may never be fully answered, yet the act of wondering is itself profound. From the subterranean quiet of Malta to the ocean-buried terraces of Yonaguni, we move through human ambition manifested in hidden forms, each site a testament to ingenuity, vision, and the unknown. The journey continues, shifting from the physical structures left behind to the written and symbolic traces of civilizations, where mysteries are encoded not in stone or water, but in undeciphered scripts and enigmatic tablets. As we leave the ocean behind, the next chapter will explore these silent messages from humanity's past, a delicate thread connecting memory, knowledge, and the inexplicable ingenuity of our ancestors. In the quiet corners of Eastern Europe, fragments of clay and stone bear markings that continue to puzzle scholars, whispering of a time when writing, as we know it, may have existed far earlier than conventional history allows. Among these enigmatic objects are the Tartaria tablets, small rectangular pieces inscribed with symbols that resist straightforward interpretation. Discovered in the early 1960s in Romania, these artifacts are believed to date back to the 5th millennium BCE, placing them centuries before the Sumerian cuneiform, often hailed as the earliest known writing system. The significance of these tablets lies not merely in their age, but in their suggestion that prehistoric humans may have had the capacity for symbolic communication far earlier than traditionally assumed, a capacity that hints at social complexity, record-keeping, and abstract thought. The markings on the Tartaria tablets are subtle and deliberate, arranged in sequences that suggest intentional meaning rather than random decoration. Yet they defy translation. Unlike the later cuneiform, which evolve in a structured writing with clear phonetic or semantic values, these symbols remain stubbornly opaque. Scholars have proposed that they may represent numbers, ritualistic codes, or proto-writing systems. Others suggest that they encode calendars, trade records, or religious knowledge, but the lack of corroborating artifacts prevents definitive conclusions. Here, as in so many ancient mysteries, the tension between fact and speculation is palpable. We can observe, measure, and classify, yet full comprehension remains just out of reach. The tablets challenge more than chronology. They challenge assumptions about the development of civilization itself. Traditional historical models often suggest that literacy and symbolic communication arise only after the establishment of agriculture and complex settlements. Yet the Tartaria tablets seem to predate these social structures, implying that abstract thinking and symbolic recording may have been a foundational aspect of human culture, not a byproduct of urbanization. In this sense, they blur the line between the primitive and the sophisticated, the known and the unknown, echoing the broader theme of archaeology where fragments hint at worlds we can barely imagine. The broader context of these discoveries is equally mysterious. The Tartaria site contained a mix of domestic artifacts, pottery, and burial objects, yet the function of the tablets remains uncertain. Were they practical tools for accounting and record-keeping, or were they objects of ritual and ceremony? Did they convey information to others within the community, or were they a private form of symbolic expression? Each possibility carries profound implications for our understanding of prehistoric human cognition. In the silent grooves of clay, we glimpse a mind reaching for abstraction, yet we remain unable to grasp the full meaning behind its intent. Further complicating the narrative is the striking similarity between these early symbols and other undeciphered signs found across Europe and the Near East. From the Vinca symbols in Serbia to enigmatic carvings in Anatolia, prehistoric marks suggest that symbolic thinking was widespread, diverse, and complex. These artifacts hint at networks of knowledge, communication, and shared ideas long before the written word became standardized. If connections existed, they speak to an intelligence capable of cultural continuity and exchange on scales we often assume to be modern inventions. The past, in this light, is not static but vibrant, layered with communication systems that may have left only fragments to challenge our curiosity today. The Tartaria tablets are also physically remarkable. Despite their small size, they bear intricate impressions made with careful, deliberate strokes. Each symbol demonstrates awareness of spatial relationships and symmetry, suggesting that their creators were highly attentive and skilled. The labor involved in creating these marks indicates value. These were not casual doodles. They were meant to endure, and in that endurance, they have succeeded, challenging centuries of assumptions about the intellectual capacities of prehistoric humans. Clay, baked and preserved over millennia, becomes a bridge between eras, carrying intentions we can sense but not fully decode. The mystery extends beyond interpretation to context. Unlike monumental sites or obvious technological feats, these tablets are subtle, intimate records, almost private messages from a vanished world. They're the whispers of a society whose broader story is largely erased, leaving us with small, tantalizing glimpses into the minds of people who lived thousands of years ago. Their silence demands patience and reflection, encouraging observers to dwell in uncertainty, to appreciate not only what is known, but what remains stubbornly hidden. In this way, the Tartaria tablets connect to other archaeological enigmas. They exist at the boundary between observation and imagination, inviting us to consider what human ingenuity might have looked like in an era often dismissed as primitive. Perhaps most unsettling is the sense of lost continuity. Whatever culture created these tablets, its knowledge and its methods appear to have vanished, leaving us with isolated fragments. There are no written descendants, no continuous tradition to illuminate their meaning, only echoes. In this absence, the tablets become a symbol of both human capability and human impermanence. They remind us that civilizations rise and fall, and that much of what once existed, ideas, skills, languages, and systems of thought, can vanish completely, leaving only silent artifacts to hint at their presence. From these small, enigmatic clay tablets, our attention begins to expand outward, tracing threads across time and geography. They lead us to consider the patterns that emerge across civilizations, where knowledge appears, flourishes, and sometimes disappears entirely. The Tartaria tablets, with their precise, mysterious symbols, are not just objects of study. They are invitations. They invite us to explore the margins of human history, to dwell in the tension between discovery and doubt, and to wonder about the breadth of intelligence and creativity that has always existed, often in forms that resist our understanding. As we reflect on these symbols, the mind naturally begins to move toward broader questions of connectivity and purpose in the ancient world. The threads of early writing, mathematics, and ritualistic expression weave together across continents, hinting at patterns and practices that transcend individual cultures. From the stone mechanics of the Antikythera mechanism, the monumental stones of Göbekli Tepe, the desert artistry of the Nazca lines, to the intimate proto-writing of the Tartaria tablets, a pattern emerges. Humanity has long sought to record, interpret, and shape its understanding of the world, leaving traces that challenge us to see beyond the surface, beyond the known, into the deeper shadows of history. As we pause to reflect on the discoveries we have explored so far, a quiet realization begins to emerge. There's a pattern weaving through these ancient anomalies, a subtle thread connecting disparate times, places, and cultures. From the intricate gears of the Antikythera mechanism to the impossibly ancient pillars of Göbekli Tepe, the vast desert etchings of the Nazca lines, the subterranean chambers of the hypogeum, the sunken terraces of Yonaguni, and the cryptic symbols of the Tartaria tablets, each artifact and structure challenges our assumptions of linear progress. In isolation, each is remarkable. Together, they suggest a broader story, one that whispers of intelligence, creativity, and cultural complexity long before the historical record can account for it. What unites these mysteries is not simply their age or their technical sophistication, but the sense that they embody knowledge that should not exist according to conventional timelines. The Antikythera mechanism demonstrates mechanical understanding centuries ahead of its supposed era. Göbekli Tepe shows architectural ambition in a time thought dominated by nomadic survival. The Nazca lines convey large-scale geometric knowledge that presupposes aerial awareness, whether practical or symbolic. The hypogeum's acoustic precision implies a nuanced understanding of sound. Yonaguni forces us to question whether monumental construction predates recorded history. And the Tartaria tablets suggest early literacy or proto-writing that predates civilization itself. Each instance challenges the neat narratives of human development that textbooks often present as fact, revealing instead a world of creative and intellectual possibility that seems almost lost to time. As we reflect on these anomalies collectively, it becomes clear that the past was not necessarily simpler or more primitive than the present. Rather, complexity existed in ways that we can only partially perceive, often obscured by the passage of time, the fragility of materials, and the selective survival of evidence. Humanity's history, it seems, has always been a tapestry of both brilliance and loss. Some knowledge persisted and became foundational to future generations, while other insights, skills, and innovations vanished, leaving only tantalizing fragments. These anomalies invite us to consider the quiet possibility that our understanding of the ancient world is provisional, shaped as much by what remains as by what has been lost. There is also a thematic connection in the intent behind these creations. Each artifact, each monument, each symbol appears to serve more than a purely functional purpose. The Antikythera mechanism was more than a navigational tool. It was a sophisticated representation of cosmic cycles. Göbekli Tepe's pillars were not merely shelters or walls, but expressions of ritual, community, and belief. The Nazca lines may have aligned the earth with the sky, communicating in a visual language to unseen observers. The hypogeum shapes sound to amplify human presence and ceremony. Yonaguni, whether natural or man-made, suggests spatial organization and perhaps ritual significance. The Tartaria tablets encode meaning in ways lost to us now. Across each example, there is a thread of intentionality, a human desire to interact with the world in ways that transcend mere survival, to create meaning, to communicate, and to endure. Another subtle link is the human engagement with the environment, how each culture manipulated, adapted, or responded to its surroundings to achieve extraordinary ends. The makers of the Antikythera mechanism exploited metal and gearwork to model the heavens. Builders at Göbekli Tepe reshaped limestone pillars to form ritual spaces in a pre-agricultural landscape. Nazca people transformed desert sands into patterns visible only from above, working in harmony with the flat plains and arid climate. The hypogeum's chambers were carved with an awareness of acoustics and spatial resonance. Yanaguni challenges us to understand human ingenuity in relation to underwater stone formations. Even the Tartaria tablets suggest intellectual engagement with material culture to encode abstract ideas. In every case, the human hand and mind worked within the constraints of the environment, yet also transcended them, achieving outcomes that still astonish us today. These anomalies also provoke reflection on human cognition, imagination, and social organization. None of these achievements could have been purely individual endeavors. Each implies a network of knowledge, shared understanding, and generational transmission of skill. To create the Antikythera mechanism, a craftsman relied on inherited mathematical and mechanical knowledge. Göbekli Tepe required coordinated labor, planning, and communal vision. The Nazca lines necessitated careful measurement and collaboration. The hypogeum reflects both craft and ritual awareness. Yanaguni, whether built or interpreted, suggests organized labor. Even the Tartaria symbols hint at communicative systems and shared meaning. Across time and space, these mysteries illuminate the cognitive sophistication of ancient humans, hinting at societies whose intellectual achievements challenge assumptions of linear progress. There's also an emotional resonance in this pattern, a quiet, almost meditative wonder. Each mystery invites us not to rush to solutions, but to linger in uncertainty, to inhabit the liminal space between knowledge and speculation. This experience is deliberate, even gentle. It encourages reflection on the persistence of human curiosity, ingenuity, and the desire to leave traces of our existence. The anomalies are not puzzles demanding immediate resolution. They are invitations to slow observation, contemplation, and imaginative engagement with the past. In this way, they align perfectly with the rhythms of a nighttime meditation on history, calm, immersive, and profoundly mysterious. By stepping back and seeing these anomalies together, a broader narrative begins to emerge, one of lost knowledge, interrupted progress, and the astonishing capabilities of early human societies. It is a narrative that resists closure, that thrives in ambiguity, and that deepens our appreciation for the complexity of the past. These artifacts and structures collectively remind us that the unknown is not merely a gap in evidence, but a space rich with possibility, reflection, and awe. They blur the boundaries between history, mythology, and imagination, reminding us that human innovation has always been expansive, unpredictable, and sometimes inexplicably advanced. From this reflection, we are poised to transition from the tangible creations of humans, the mechanisms, the pillars, the lines, the chambers, and terraces, to the mysteries of the human body, DNA, and species itself. Just as our ancestors left material traces that challenge our understanding, so too does the record of human evolution, with its shadows, gaps, and anomalies, hint at complexities and enigmas that science continues to explore. In contemplating these threads of the impossible, we are prepared to move from stone and symbol into flesh and lineage, tracing the mysteries encoded in our very being. The journey continues, gently unfolding from the known into the quietly profound unknown. Deep within the frozen expanses of Siberia, in a remote cave known as Denisova, fragments of bone were discovered that would quietly reshape our understanding of human evolution. At first, these remains seemed ordinary, a finger bone here, a tooth there, but when scientists analyzed the DNA preserved within them, a startling revelation emerged. These belonged to a previously unknown species of human, now called the Denisovans. Unlike Neanderthals, whose existence and physical characteristics have been relatively well mapped through fossil evidence, Denisovans remain largely invisible to the eye of history. We have no complete skeletons, no detailed portraits, only fragments and genetic traces, yet these fragments speak volumes about the complexity, diversity, and mystery of human ancestry. The Denisovans are known primarily through their DNA, extracted from tiny bone fragments that survived the millennia in the cold, dry cave environment. Sequencing their genome revealed something extraordinary. They were distinct from both modern humans and Neanderthals, yet closely related enough to interbreed with both species. Modern humans, particularly in Asia and Oceania, carry small percentages of Denisovan DNA, meaning their legacy lives quietly within us, woven into our genetic makeup, even if their faces have never been seen. The very existence of Denisovans challenges the neat, linear models of human evolution, suggesting a complex web of interactions, migrations, and hybridizations across continents. The fragmentary nature of the evidence makes them profoundly enigmatic. A single finger bone, a tooth, and a few molars are all that archaeologists have found directly attributable to Denisovans. There are no complete skeletons, no intact skulls, no depictions of their appearance. For centuries, we have imagined ancient humans as either Neanderthals, Homo sapiens, or earlier hominins. But Denisovans resist categorization, inhabiting a shadowy space between recognition and conjecture. Their invisibility in the fossil record contrasts sharply with their biological presence in our own DNA, a paradox that unsettles our assumptions about how much we can truly know about our species' history. The cave where Denisovans were found, Denisova Cave, itself adds to the mystery. Layers of sediment, preserved in near-pristine condition, contain tools, ornaments, and traces of fire use, suggesting a population capable of sophisticated behavior. Small, finely crafted stone tools have been recovered, along with objects that may have served symbolic or decorative purposes, indicating cognitive abilities comparable to contemporary humans and Neanderthals. Yet without more skeletal evidence, we cannot fully understand their anatomy, their social structures, or the details of their daily lives. We know that they existed and that they interacted with other humans, but the details remain elusive, a silent puzzle suspended in both time and biology. Genetic studies have revealed fascinating insights, further deepening the intrigue. Denisovan DNA contributes to traits in modern populations, influencing immune response, adaptation to high-altitude environments, and even some metabolic traits. In Tibetan populations, for example, the EPS1 gene, which allows adaptation to low oxygen at high altitudes, appears to have been inherited from Denisovans. This means that while the Denisovans themselves vanished tens of thousands of years ago, their genetic legacy persists quietly, influencing human physiology today in ways we are only beginning to understand. The past, in this sense, is not truly gone. It resonates within us. Yet for all the genetic data, the Denisovans remain faceless. We do not know their eye color, skin tone, hair texture, or exact stature. Artistic reconstructions are, by necessity, speculative, blending scientific inference with imagination. They remind us that history is not always visible, that knowledge exists in fragments, and that absence can be as meaningful as presence. The Denisovans compel us to consider the vast unknowns in human evolution. How many other populations existed and disappeared without leaving visible traces? How did these groups interact, share knowledge, or compete for survival? And most profoundly, what does it mean to be human when the line between species is fluid, porous, and continuously redefined? The Denisovans also raise questions about geography and migration. Their genetic footprints suggest a wide range across Asia, from Siberia to Southeast Asia, overlapping with Neanderthal and modern human populations. This implies that the movements of ancient humans were far more complex than previously assumed, involving multiple migrations, encounters, and exchanges of genes and perhaps culture. Yet unlike Neanderthals in Europe, Denisovans left almost no visible material culture, no monumental constructions, no written records. They are defined almost entirely by absence, by what little they left behind, and by the living traces encoded in DNA, a bridge between the past and the present that is both literal and symbolic. The quiet, almost ghostly presence of Denisovans is deeply unsettling. We live in a world where genetic science can illuminate fragments of invisible histories, but cannot fully restore them. We can read the sequences of their DNA, compare them to our own, and trace migrations across millennia. Yet the human essence, the faces, the voices, the lived experience, remains inaccessible. They exist in the shadows of our understanding, reminding us that human history is not a single narrative, but a complex tapestry, woven from countless threads, many of which are frayed, hidden, or missing entirely. In contemplating the Denisovans, we confront the delicate boundary between knowledge and mystery. They demonstrate that even within our own species, the past can be profoundly unknowable. Our understanding of human evolution is not complete, and every discovery opens new questions rather than answers. They exemplify a recurring theme in archaeology, that the more we uncover, the more we realize how much remains concealed, how many stories have been lost, and how many forms of human ingenuity have vanished, leaving only traces in DNA, stone, or memory. From the Denisovan fragments of bone and genetic code, we are drawn naturally into another unsettling realm. The anomalies found in human remains, particularly those that seem altered by unusual environmental conditions or preservation processes. Just as Denisovans leave traces in our biology, so too do the Atacama mummies and other extraordinary discoveries challenge our assumptions about human variation, adaptation, and preservation. The journey continues, moving from the genetic shadows of unknown ancestors to the quiet mysteries preserved in flesh and bone, where the past speaks to us in a more immediate, yet equally enigmatic form. High in the desolate deserts of northern Chile, where the air is thin, dry, and sharp with the scent of earth and salt, an unusual discovery emerged that would captivate both scientists and the public alike. In 2003, a small, mummified skeleton was found in the Atacama Desert. Only about 6 inches long, it resembled a human infant at first glance. Yet further investigation revealed features that defied simple categorization. Known colloquially as the Atacama mummy, or Atta, this tiny body sparked immediate fascination, raising questions not only about human development, but also about the limits of biology, adaptation, and preservation. It is an enigma that sits at the intersection of anthropology, genetics, and mystery, unsettling in its combination of familiarity and difference. From the outset, Atta challenges expectations. Its diminutive size is remarkable, but so too are the peculiarities of its skull and skeletal structure. The cranium is elongated, the ribs unusually shaped, and the bones display fusion patterns and anomalies inconsistent with normal human development. Forensic imaging and genetic testing have confirmed that Atta is indeed human, yet the DNA reveals multiple mutations linked to bone development and growth, suggesting a unique set of genetic traits. The result is a being that is unmistakably human, yet unlike any human ever documented, a subtle but profound reminder that human variation can be far broader than convention allows. The preservation of Atta adds another layer of intrigue. The arid climate of the Atacama Desert undoubtedly played a role, preventing decomposition and stabilizing tissues for centuries. Yet the combination of genetic anomalies and environmental preservation has produced a body that appears almost artificially intact, as though time itself has paused in deference to this fragile, unusual form. Every bone, every minute detail of the skeleton invites careful examination. The tiny hands and feet, the delicate vertebrae, the ridged skull, they all speak of a complex story of life that existed in a harsh landscape, yet the precise circumstances of Atta's birth, life, and death remain obscured. Researchers have grappled with the broader implications of Ada's unique biology. Some of the genetic mutations found in the DNA would likely have caused significant medical challenges, potentially explaining the small stature and abnormal skeletal development. Yet the existence of such a specimen forces a reconsideration of what is possible within human development. It also raises questions about how many other anomalies may have existed historically but left no preserved trace. Ada is a silent witness to the diversity and unpredictability of human biology, reminding us that even in prehistoric and historic populations, life could take forms that challenge modern expectations. The tiny mummy also evokes broader questions about humanity's fascination with the unusual. From a moment of its discovery, Ada became a subject of speculation, myth, and conspiracy. Some wondered if it was extraterrestrial, an entirely different species, or evidence of ancient experimentation. The reality is less sensational but equally profound. This is a human being, altered by genetics and preserved by environment, offering a glimpse into the extraordinary adaptability and variability of our species. It serves as a tangible, physical reminder that the past is not uniform, and that even in human history, anomalies can leave legacies that challenge established narratives. Scientific study has slowly illuminated aspects of Ada's biology. Radiocarbon dating suggests that the mummy is around 400 years old, placing it within a historical period rich with human migration, adaptation, and cultural development in South America. DNA sequencing has confirmed human lineage, with mitochondrial DNA pointing to ancestry in the local region. Yet despite these details, the why and how of Ada's life remain opaque. The tiny skeleton does not simply answer questions. It raises new ones, echoing the broader pattern of unsettling anomalies that punctuate human history. In this, Ada fits perfectly alongside Denisovans, Tartaria tablets, and Yonaguni, a small but profound fragment of evidence that opens vast realms of speculation. The Atacama mummy also reminds us of the intersection between biology and environment. The desert's extreme dryness and altitude likely contributed to the remarkable preservation. Yet the environmental conditions do more than conserve. They emphasize context. Ada did not exist in a vacuum. Every mutation, every bone anomaly, is in conversation with the harsh world in which this tiny individual lived and died. This duality, the interplay of genetics and environment, the seen and the hidden, mirrors broader patterns in archaeology and human history, where discoveries are rarely isolated but instead embedded within landscapes, climates, and circumstances that shape their survival. Perhaps most unsettling is the sense of individuality that Ada evokes. Unlike a ruined city or a broken artifact, this was a living being with experiences, perhaps even struggles. They're now silent. In the quiet study of its bones, one can sense the fragile humanity preserved in this desert relic. The anomalies in the skeleton are not abstract. They belong to a person, however tiny, whose life intersected with the environment, the community, and history itself. It is a poignant reminder that anomalies in archaeology and anthropology are not simply curiosities. They are remnants of lives once lived, offering an intimate connection across centuries. From the Denisovan genetic shadows to the preserved anomalies of Ada, a pattern emerges. Human history is not neat, linear, or uniform. It is a complex tapestry of brilliance, adaptation, variation, and mystery. The Atacama mummy extends this narrative into the intimate realm of individual experience, demonstrating that the past is composed not only of grand monuments and enigmatic tools, but also of fragile, singular lives that defy expectations. In contemplating Ada, we encounter the deep resonance of human possibility, the quiet astonishment of variation, and the gentle disquiet of mystery preserved in flesh and bone. As we leave the arid expanses of the Atacama Desert behind, the journey of curiosity naturally extends toward broader human enigmas, those hidden in the landscape, the water, the stars, and the remnants of societies long vanished. The story of Ada, tiny but profound, prepares us to consider the next tier of mystery: how our ancestors engaged with death, the afterlife, and the unknown, leaving behind symbols, structures, and practices that continue to unsettle, inspire, and illuminate. From preserved anomaly to symbolic enigma, we move onward, deeper into the interplay between human ingenuity, belief, and the shadows of history. In the arid Soup Valley of Peru, far from the sweeping Nazca Plains and the bustling Andes, lies a city that predates most known civilizations in the Americas. Carroll, often referred to as the Mother City of the Americas, was first excavated in the late 20th century, revealing monumental architecture that challenged previously held assumptions about early urban life. Unlike many ancient cities whose grandeur is celebrated through written records or extensive trade documentation, Carroll's story is largely silent, conveyed only through stone terraces, sunken plazas, and pyramidal structures that rise from the desert floor like echoes of a civilization that has long vanished. Its discovery was a revelation. Here was a city flourishing over 5,000 years ago, contemporaneous with the construction of Egypt's Great Pyramids, yet it emerged independently in the Americas, entirely disconnected from the Old World. The pyramids of Carroll are modest in height compared to their Egyptian counterparts, but their scale, alignment, and integration into the urban fabric are striking. They are built from sun-dried bricks and stones, forming terraces that support temples, ceremonial spaces, and what appear to be administrative areas. The layout suggests sophisticated planning, indicating that the inhabitants possessed knowledge of engineering, social organization, and spatial design far beyond what might be expected from a society without writing or metallurgy. Carroll was not merely a collection of huts. It was a carefully constructed city designed to facilitate ceremonial, social, and possibly economic functions, demonstrating an intelligence that flourished quietly in isolation. One of the most compelling aspects of Carroll is the integration of civic and ceremonial life. Sunken plazas, amphitheater-like spaces, and pyramid platforms suggest ritual activity, likely tied to cosmological or spiritual beliefs. The people of Carroll may have performed ceremonies to honor the cycles of the sun, the fertility of the land, or the rhythms of society itself. While no written records survive, the physical layout communicates intention and organization. The city is both functional and symbolic, blending daily life with spiritual practice in a way that resonates with other early urban centers worldwide. This duality, the practical and the ceremonial, hints at a complex worldview and challenges assumptions that writing or metal tools are prerequisites for sophisticated urban society. Archaeologists have also uncovered musical instruments at Carroll, including flutes made from bone, which adds a human dimension to the mystery. These instruments suggest that art, ritual, and sound were integral to daily life, enhancing communal cohesion and perhaps linking civic life with ceremonial expression. In this, Carroll mirrors other enigmatic sites, such as the hypogeum of Hal Saflieni, where architecture itself amplifies sound, suggesting that humans across time have sought to shape not only space but experience. Music, like ritual, is ephemeral, leaving traces only in instruments and memory, yet provides insight into the intangible dimensions of ancient societies, their desire to communicate emotion, meaning, and identity. The discovery of Carroll also raises profound questions about the origins of civilization in the Americas. It predates the Inca, the Moche, and other prominent cultures by millennia, suggesting that complex urban organization and monumental construction emerged independently in multiple regions. This challenges the notion that civilization spreads only through diffusion from a single cradle. Instead, it highlights humanity's capacity to innovate, organize, and create sophisticated societies in diverse environments. Carroll stands as a testament to the ingenuity of humans who, even without writing or metallurgy, could conceive of cities that integrated social, spiritual, and practical needs. Equally intriguing is what remains unknown. Despite extensive excavation, much of Carroll is buried under centuries of soil and sediment, and many questions persist. How is the society governed? How were resources allocated and labor organized to construct pyramids and plazas without modern tools? What specific beliefs motivated the architecture and urban layout? The absence of definitive answers enhances the site's allure, leaving room for contemplation and speculation. In this sense, Carroll is a mirror of other ancient mysteries. The more we uncover, the more we realize the vastness of what remains hidden. It reminds us that history is not always fully visible, that civilizations can flourish, innovate, and vanish, leaving tantalizing traces for us to interpret centuries later. The pyramids themselves are particularly enigmatic in their orientation and design. Many align with solar or astronomical events, suggesting an understanding of celestial movements. This attention to cosmic rhythm is echoed in civilizations as distant as Egypt and Mesopotamia, yet Carroll developed independently, pointing to a universal human fascination with the heavens and their perceived influence on earthly life. The pyramids may have functioned as observatories, ceremonial platforms, or symbolic representations of cosmological concepts. Whatever their specific purpose, they communicate ambition, intellect, and a desire to connect the human and the divine, reinforcing the sense that early societies, even those without writing, were capable of abstract, symbolic thought. Carroll also demonstrates the importance of environment in shaping civilization. The city flourished in a challenging desert valley, sustained by irrigation, agriculture, and resource management that required foresight, cooperation, and planning. The ability to thrive in such an environment underscores the sophistication of the society and its understanding of ecological dynamics. Here, architecture, urban planning, and environmental adaptation intertwine, revealing a civilization attuned to both its physical surroundings and its social needs. From a narrative perspective, Carroll serves as a bridge between the monumental and the intimate, the practical and the mystical, connecting our exploration of large-scale structures like Göbekli Tepe with personal human experiences, such as those embodied in the Atacama mummy. It reminds us that civilization is not solely measured in size or technology, but in organization, vision, and the integration of multiple dimensions of life. Carroll's pyramids rise quietly from the desert, whispering of ingenuity, ritual, and the universal human urge to create meaning in a vast and often indifferent world. As we leave the Soup Valley, the mind naturally turns to the broader questions these pyramids raise. How did early humans conceive of urban life? How did belief, art, and social coordination emerge in parallel with architecture? And how many other cities, temples, and monuments might lie hidden beneath soil, sand, or water, awaiting discovery? Carroll, in its quiet grandeur, encourages us to pause and reflect on these questions, preparing us to move forward into the symbolic and spiritual realms of human expression, where the mysteries of belief, ritual, and sacred space continue to unfold across time and geography. Deep within the dense jungles and rolling plains of Costa Rica, an extraordinary and enigmatic phenomenon waits silently in the earth. Hundreds of perfectly shaped stone spheres, ranging from a few centimeters to over 2 meters in diameter. These remarkable objects, often weighing several tons, are scattered across valleys and hills, arranged in ways that suggest deliberate placement. Discovered in the 1930s during banana plantation development, they immediately captured the attention of archaeologists and the public alike. What makes them so compelling is not just their precision or size, but the profound mystery surrounding their purpose, origin, and the culture that created them. Questions that remain largely unanswered even decades later. The sheer craftsmanship of the spheres is astonishing. Many are near perfectly round, their surfaces polished and smooth despite being carved from hard stone using what appears to be relatively primitive tools. The largest spheres defy imagination. Moving them would have required coordinated effort, ingenuity, and perhaps technology lost to history. The precision of these forms suggests a culture with an advanced understanding of geometry and labor organization, capable of shaping natural materials into objects that balance aesthetic beauty with engineering skill. Yet, despite centuries of study, the methods by which these spheres were carved, transported, and positioned remain elusive, adding a sense of wonder and unease. Even more intriguing is their distribution and alignment. While some spheres appear isolated, others are grouped in geometric patterns, lines, circles, or arrangements that seem to correspond to topographical features. Archaeologists have debated whether these placements had astronomical, ceremonial, or social significance. Were they markers of territory, symbols of power, or objects of spiritual devotion? Some theories suggest alignment with solstices or lunar cycles, hinting at a sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics. Others propose symbolic roles, connecting communities to myths, ancestors, or deities. The lack of written records leaves the sphere's intent ambiguous, emphasizing a tension between meticulous craftsmanship and hidden purpose. The cultural context of the spheres remains largely opaque. They are attributed to the Dequis culture, which flourished in the region from around 500 CE to 1500 CE, yet much about their society, rituals, and daily life is unknown. Without direct textual or visual explanations, we can only infer meaning from the objects themselves and their surroundings. Some spheres were found near mounds or burial sites, suggesting ceremonial significance. Others were discovered along pathways or within settlements, hinting at social or political symbolism. Each sphere seems intentional, a deliberate choice in shape, size, and placement, yet the rationale behind these choices eludes us, leaving a quiet, almost meditative mystery that resonates across centuries. The spheres also prompt reflection on human ambition and aesthetic sensibility. Creating perfectly round forms from stone is no small feat, regardless of size. Achieving uniformity, symmetry, and polish in heavy rocks requires patience, cooperation, and knowledge passed across generations. In this, the spheres embody more than technical skill. They reveal a human desire to impose order, beauty, and meaning onto the natural world. They are simultaneously practical, symbolic, and artistic, demonstrating that early cultures were capable of sophistication that extended beyond mere survival, engaging with ideas of harmony, proportion, and perhaps even cosmic order. Environmental preservation has played a critical role in the sphere's endurance. The humid, tropical climate, along with centuries of human activity, has displaced some stones, but many remain remarkably intact. Their durability underscores the thoughtfulness of their construction and the foresight of the people who made them. Unlike ephemeral artifacts, the spheres are monumental in both presence and concept, capturing the imagination precisely because they bridge the visible and the hidden, the known and the unknown. Their silent perfection invites observation, meditation, and speculation, connecting us across time to cultures that valued symmetry, permanence, and meaning. The mystery deepens when considering the lack of clear tools or methods. Stone carving in the Dequis culture relied on basic implements, hammerstones, chisels, and abrasion techniques. But the uniformity and polish of the spheres suggest a level of precision that seems improbable given these tools. Were specialized techniques lost over time? Did the spheres serve a function that required their perfection, such as ritual alignment, acoustic properties, or cosmological mapping? Or were they created purely as objects of symbolic or spiritual power, designed to impress, inspire, or mark significant locations? Each hypothesis opens new questions rather than resolving the central enigma, leaving the spheres suspended in a space of wonder. These objects also resonate with broader patterns in human history. Across continents and millennia, humans have sought to shape the natural world into forms that convey meaning beyond utility. Monuments, temples, lines in the desert, and symbols in clay or stone. The Dequis spheres, like Göbekli Tepe, Carol, and the Nazca lines, illustrate a common impulse to combine skill, creativity, and cultural expression into enduring forms that communicate across generations. They challenge the assumption that complexity requires writing or metal tools, reminding us that human ingenuity often manifests in ways that are subtle, quiet, and highly refined. Finally, the spheres evoke a sense of continuity and fragility. While some have been moved, damaged, or lost to agriculture and urbanization, many survive, offering a tangible connection to lives long vanished. They invite reflection on the impermanence of culture and the selective endurance of human creativity. What other forms, structures, and symbols may have existed across the Americas, now lost to time, erosion, or neglect? The spheres remind us that every artifact we encounter is part of a broader story, a dialogue between past and present that stretches beyond immediate comprehension. From the pyramids of Cairo, standing tall in the desert sun, to the quiet perfection of the Dequis spheres scattered across jungle valleys, we see a continuum of human aspiration, the desire to shape the world, to mark existence, and to engage with both the material and symbolic dimensions of life. The spheres prepare us to consider the next stage of human mystery, the intangible threads of belief, ritual, and sacred symbolism expressed not through stone alone, but through the alignment of structures, celestial observances, and spiritual intent that permeate human history. In this way, the journey continues, moving from crafted perfection to the profound, often invisible dimensions of human consciousness and devotion. High on a remote plateau in southeastern Turkey, where the Anatolian winds sweep across undulating plains, lies a site that has redefined our understanding of the origins of human civilization. Göbekli Tepe, first excavated in the 1990s, is a monumental complex of massive stone pillars arranged in circular enclosures, dating back more than 11,000 years, long before agriculture or permanent settlements were thought to exist. Its discovery overturned long-standing assumptions, suggesting that humans may have built monumental, symbolic structures before developing the technologies and social frameworks typically associated with such projects. Göbekli Tepe is not merely an archaeological site. It is a profound puzzle, a silent testament to human creativity, ritual, and the emergence of complex belief systems in a world still dominated by hunter-gatherers. The most striking feature of Göbekli Tepe is its stone pillars, many weighing several tons and reaching heights of 5 to 6 meters. Each pillar is intricately carved with images of animals, lions, snakes, boars, scorpions, and birds, and abstract symbols that defy easy interpretation. These carvings are not mere decoration. They suggest narrative, symbolism, and a sophisticated visual language. The animal motifs, sometimes presented in dynamic poses or paired with geometric forms, may represent myth, clan identity, or spiritual cosmology. The carvings are precise, intentional, and deeply evocative, hinting at beliefs and knowledge that remain beyond our full comprehension. What makes Göbekli Tepe particularly enigmatic is the apparent lack of permanent habitation. Unlike later civilizations that built temples within established cities, Göbekli Tepe seems to have been constructed by people who still lived as hunter-gatherers, moving across the landscape in seasonal patterns. The site was intentionally buried around 8,000 BCE, leaving the monumental structures hidden beneath layers of soil. This deliberate burial raises countless questions. Why would a society invest so much labor in constructing such extraordinary enclosures, only to cover them entirely? Was it ritualistic, protective, or symbolic, preserving sacred knowledge from misuse or decay? The act of concealment itself adds a layer of mystery, inviting contemplation about human interaction with time, memory, and the sacred. The arrangement of the pillars and circular enclosures is equally compelling. Each circle appears to have been planned with careful attention to spatial relationships, with some pillars positioned at the center and others at the periphery, possibly to mark social, ceremonial, or cosmic significance. The site's layout suggests an understanding of geometry and symmetry, yet also emphasizes experience and perspective. As participants move through the enclosures, they would have encountered sequences of images and forms that guided perception, perhaps telling stories, evoking awe, or facilitating ritual. In this way, Göbekli Tepe functions as an early theater of human belief, where space, form, and symbol converge to create meaning. The symbolism embedded in the carvings continues to baffle researchers. Predators and dangerous animals are prominently featured, raising questions about their significance. Were these totems of power, cautionary figures, or representations of spiritual realms? Abstract symbols, such as hooks, circles, and spirals, appear alongside the animal imagery, suggesting layers of meaning that may have encoded cultural knowledge, myth, or ritual instruction. Without a written record, interpretation relies on analogy, comparative ethnography, and educated conjecture, but even these approaches offer only glimpses into the minds of the people who built Göbekli Tepe. The result is an immersive mystery. Every pillar speaks silently, demanding attention, reflection, and respect. Göbekli Tepe also challenges assumptions about the relationship between agriculture, social organization, and monumental construction. Conventional theories posited that farming and surplus food production were prerequisites for building large structures. Yet evidence from Göbekli Tepe suggests the opposite. Ritual and belief may have motivated social cooperation and technological innovation, laying the foundation for later urbanization and agriculture. The site illustrates a profound truth about human society: the desire to create, to communicate with the sacred, and to engage in collective effort often precedes, and perhaps even catalyzes, other forms of societal complexity. In this sense, Göbekli Tepe is not just a historical site. It is a philosophical reflection on the origins of civilization itself. The deliberate burial of the enclosures adds an emotional and symbolic layer to the mystery. By covering their monumental creations, the builders created a time capsule that preserved their artistry, intent, and spiritual expression for millennia. This act speaks to the human desire to control legacy, memory, and meaning, to protect knowledge even from future generations. It also parallels other enigmatic sites, such as the hypogeum of Hal-Saflieni, where underground spaces create intimacy and preserve sound and ritual, or the Nazca Lines, which can only be fully appreciated from a removed vantage point. In each case, human ingenuity is combined with subtlety, foresight, and an awareness of time and perception. The emotional impact of standing within Göbekli Tepe today is profound. Despite the millennia that separate us from its builders, the site conveys presence, intention, and humanity. The scale of the pillars, the intricacy of the carvings, and the layout of the enclosures create a sense of wonder, reverence, and mystery. One cannot help but imagine the ceremonies, gatherings, and shared experiences that took place here. Moments that must have been transformative for those early humans, shaping beliefs, social bonds, and cultural identity. It is a reminder that history is not merely a collection of dates and artifacts, but a lived, experiential tapestry that connects us across time. Göbekli Tepe, in its hidden symbolism, also challenges us to reflect on the limits of human understanding. The site forces humility. No matter how advanced modern archaeology, anthropology, or technology may become, some aspects of human creativity and belief remain inaccessible. The motives, spiritual frameworks, and daily lives of its builders are veiled, yet the site speaks through form, scale, and artistry, inviting engagement and contemplation. In this way, Göbekli Tepe exemplifies the enduring power of mystery, where knowledge exists alongside wonder, and where every unanswered question deepens our appreciation for human ingenuity. From the pyramids of Cairo to the stone spheres of Costa Rica, and now to the monumental enclosures of Göbekli Tepe, a pattern emerges. Humans across time and geography have sought to shape their world through space, symbol, and collective effort. These creations are both functional and metaphysical, connecting the tangible and intangible, the practical and the sacred. Göbekli Tepe, in particular, reveals the earliest whispers of organized belief, illustrating that the human impulse to create meaning, structure, and ritual is ancient, profound, and inseparable from the story of civilization itself. It prepares us to reflect next on the most intimate expressions of human mystery, the burial practices, sacred spaces, and enigmatic rituals that continue to speak across millennia. Across the globe, from the deserts of Egypt to the valleys of Peru, from the caves of Siberia to the hills of Malta, humans have left behind traces of a practice that is at once universal and deeply enigmatic: the treatment of the dead. Burial is a ritual of care, remembrance, and belief. Yet it is also one of the most intimate and puzzling aspects of ancient life. Across cultures and millennia, archaeologists have uncovered tombs, graves, mummies, and ossuaries, each offering hints of spiritual belief, social hierarchy, and human emotion, yet simultaneously leaving countless questions unanswered. The silent spaces of the dead invite reflection not only on mortality, but on the creative, symbolic, and sometimes inexplicably mysterious impulses that have shaped human culture. One of the most striking features of ancient burial practices is their diversity. In Egypt, elaborate tombs with walls painted in vivid depictions of the afterlife, filled with treasures and ritual objects, suggest a complex cosmology and an intense focus on immortality. In contrast, the hypogeum of Hal Saflieni in Malta demonstrates a different, subterranean approach, where the dead were placed in chambers designed with precise acoustic properties, their remains arranged with apparent ceremonial care. Some burials are accompanied by grave goods, symbolic carvings, or offerings, while others are stark and unadorned, reflecting variation in status, belief, or ritual practice. Across these examples, a central tension emerges: the desire to honor and preserve life, and the simultaneous acknowledgement of death's inevitability, a duality reflected in the architecture, arrangement, and symbolism of burial sites. The mystery deepens when examining unusual or inexplicable practices. In some locations, human remains are arranged in patterns that defy easy interpretation. Skeletons may be deliberately stacked, disarticulated, or placed in fetal positions, suggesting ritual significance beyond mere interment. In other cases, bodies are accompanied by objects or symbols whose meaning has been lost to time, leaving archaeologists and historians to speculate about intentions, cosmology, or social hierarchies. These practices hint at an intimate, almost personal engagement with death, where the act of burial serves as both a practical necessity and a conduit for spiritual expression. The silence of these spaces is haunting. While they reveal meticulous care and intentionality, they offer no definitive explanation for the beliefs and emotions that guided them. Some burial sites challenge understanding even further due to their sheer scale or sophistication. Megalithic tombs, such as Newgrange in Ireland or the pyramids of Egypt, demonstrate architectural and engineering feats achieved with prehistoric technology. These constructions required planning, labor coordination, and knowledge of astronomy or spatial alignment, suggesting that death was not merely a private matter, but a communal, societal concern. Such monumental efforts imply that the living invested significant energy, skill, and time to honor the dead, signaling the profound importance of ritual and remembrance in human societies. The intersection of architecture, symbolism, and mortuary practice highlights the complex relationship between human ingenuity and a universal encounter with mortality. In other regions, burial practices incorporate natural or environmental elements in ways that remain mysterious. High-altitude mummies in the Andes, such as the children sacrificed in Incan rituals, are preserved by cold, dry climates, their placement atop peaks suggesting spiritual significance. Similarly, bog bodies in northern Europe, preserved in peat, provide intimate glimpses of individuals whose deaths may have been ritualistic, punitive, or ceremonial. These sites raise questions about the intersection of human agency, environmental conditions, and spiritual belief. Why were individuals chosen for these extraordinary interments? What symbolism did the locations hold? And how did these practices influence collective memory and social identity? Each discovery offers a fragment of insight, yet the full narrative remains beyond reach. The emotional resonance of ancient burials is profound. Unlike stones, spheres, pyramids, or mechanical artifacts, human remains carry an immediate, visceral connection to life. Bones, mummified tissue, and grave artifacts provide tangible evidence of individual existence, offering a bridge between past and present. In some cases, isotopic and genetic analysis reveals information about diet, health, or ancestry, linking personal stories to broader historical narratives. Yet despite the scientific insights, the essential mystery persists. The beliefs, emotions, and intentions that guided these practices are intangible, left only in the silence of the tomb. Burials invite empathy, imagination, and contemplation, creating a space where history, mystery, and human experience converge. The universality of burial practices also underscores a shared human impulse to engage with mortality, to ritualize the unknown, and to communicate across time. Across cultures, people have sought ways to honor the dead, ensure safe passage, or connect with the spiritual realm. These practices may involve complex constructions, symbolic arrangements, or intimate gestures of care. While the specifics vary widely, the underlying motivations appear strikingly consistent. Humans have always recognized death as both an end and a threshold, and they have sought to navigate it with intention, creativity, and ritual. From a broader perspective, the study of burial practices illuminates connections across human history. The subterranean acoustics of the hypogeum, the monumental scale of Carol's pyramids, the enigmatic alignment of Costa Rica's spheres, and the symbolic carvings of Göbekli Tepe all resonate with similar impulses to mark existence, communicate meaning, and engage with forces beyond immediate comprehension. Burials, in particular, make these impulses intimate and personal, transforming human mortality into an enduring dialogue with time, memory, and culture. They are reminders that mystery is not always external. It can reside in the most fundamental aspects of life itself. In contemplating these ancient practices, one becomes acutely aware of the fragility and resilience of human culture. Despite centuries or millennia, graves, tombs, and mummies preserve traces of lives, beliefs, and societies that might otherwise be forgotten. Yet each discovery also underscores how much has been lost: languages, rituals, and knowledge that remain inaccessible. The tension between preservation and absence, between understanding and mystery, defines the study of ancient burials and highlights the enduring allure of humanity's hidden histories. From these intimate encounters with mortality, we are gently guided toward reflection on the broader arc of human ingenuity, creativity, and mystery. The practices surrounding death connect directly to the themes explored throughout this journey: the drive to create, to communicate, to leave a mark, and to engage with forces larger than ourselves. As we move toward the final reflections, it becomes clear that human history is a mosaic of the known and the unknown, the monumental and the personal, the tangible and the symbolic, a continuum of mystery that continues to resonate quietly across time and space.